Okay, so continuing on in Module 4, we're going to continue talking about lines. So we're going to go to Module 4. And here we're still talking about the rectangular coordinate system and lines. And this is actually section 3.3 in the ebook. Okay, so let's talk about lines, and we're going to talk in particular about a slope of a line. Okay, so the slope of a line basically measures the steepness of that line, measures the steepness of a line. Right, so we're always talking about going from left to right. So if I'm going up from left to right, it has a positive slope. Right, and it could be a steeper line, right? That's a pretty high, it's like a pretty tall mountain to climb, right? Pretty high mountain. And then this one, it's much more gradual, right? So you can talk about which one's steeper, right? So in this case, A is steeper than line B, right? And then also we could talk about a line that falls like that, right? So it falls from left to right. This has a negative slope. Oops. So this has a negative slope. It slopes down to the right. Down to the right. And we're always going from left to right. And then the positive slope, this one slopes up to the right. Okay, if it's flat, kind of like Florida, right, there's no slope. So we call it zero slope. Right, it's a horizontal line. Actually, I'm going to call that not no slope, but zero slope. Okay. And then if I am a vertical line, right, it goes straight up and down, it's an undefined slope. Right, and this is for a vertical line. And you can think of it, it's impossible, right? It's impossible to climb a vertical side of a wall unless you're Spider-Man or something. But basically, it's an undefined slope for a vertical line. Okay, so these are the 4 different types of slopes that you might see. So I'm going to give you a more formal definition of a slope of a line. Basically, it's the change in y. It's a ratio of the change in y over the change in x. So the definition of the slope, it's the change in my y direction over my change in the x direction. Okay, or we can call it rise over run, which some of you have probably heard. And basically we're talking about, we're going to rise as either up or down, and our run is left or right. And again, remember we're referring to our, whoops, that's not a very good line. We're referring to our rectangular coordinate system, right? We're referring to our XY coordinate system. Okay, so if I talk about a slope like, I have a line that has a slope like this, and I want to go from, say, point A to point B. If I can only move up and down or left and right, it's like saying I have to move up this way, right? And I have to move right this way. So this is my change in my y direction. Right, which is considered my rise. And this is my change in x direction. Or my run. Okay? Basically, the slope of a line can be found using any 2 points on that line. Using any 2 points on that line. Okay, so I'll give you 2 examples. Remember, our points are always an xy coordinate, right? So I'm going to say I have point A, or 1 point, right, has a coordinate x. I'm going to call it x sub 1, y sub 1. And that's just notation. It's just meaning that that's an x, and then this one is a y. And let's say I have point B has another point coordinate, that's x2, y sub 2. Okay, so this is my first point. And this is my second point. So if I look at my change in y, I'm just going to take, that's going to be my 2 y coordinates, right? So I'm going to take my y2 minus my y1, and my change in x is going to be my x, the second point, x minus x sub 1. So then my slope, as we defined earlier, right, was our change in y divided by our change in x. And we give this a special letter, m. Okay, so when you'll find out more that we're going to be talking about the letter m, which is our slope. And since it's defined as change in y over change in x, my formula is just y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, so this is a very important formula you guys want to remember. Okay, so let's go through a couple examples.